lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and back with me again, Mr. Patrick Horvath here. We are talking issue 2 of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, as we are going to we're going to be doing an entire creator commentary in the series. So each time an issue comes out, we'll be talking about the new one, and I'm very excited to go through this latest issue with you.
Cool, so am I.
First of all, if you haven't picked up the first issue, it's sold out, but the second print of number 1 is coming out this week as of the date that this video is dropping, and I highly recommend you pick it up, catch up with the series. It's not something you're going to want to miss. It's already on plenty of end of year best of series, so go pick it up. Also, if you haven't read the first issue, then you probably shouldn't be watching this video. So
yes, do not
do
stop
not
right
go
now.
there.
Go ahead and go pick up issue 1 somehow, and then join us right now.
Yes. And let's get into it. So we've already talked about Nate and his design acumen, dude. I just love these, you know?
Yeah, it's off the charts. I love it. He knocks it out of the park every time.
Yeah, and it's like now it's being used as a way to kind of catch you up with what happened before, which is really good.
Yeah.
Like previously in Woodbrook, you know? So there was a death, another character that we may or may not have met has murdered somebody, and that's where we left off, and it's kind of throwing a wrench into Samantha's whole get
huge
down.
problem. Yeah,
yes.
Huge problem. And the whole first scene is the fallout.
Yes.
And this is essentially like an emergency town hall meeting, which I feel like is such a trope in all sorts of different sort of town-based stories or whatever. And it really felt like it needed to lean into the trope of that for this. It's funny when you get into tropes for whatever, for horror or whatever. It's always a question of whether or not you should lean into them or turn them upside down. And I've noticed that with this story, because essentially because of the animal people, scenario, it feels just like the right move to just be to lean in heavy duty into them all to see how they play out, because the anthropomorphic qualities just kind of like, you want to see how that works out. So anyway, yeah. So here we have our mayor sort of laying down for anybody who needs to get back up to speed, what's going on, and introducing our Sheriff Patterson here.
It's a bloodhound, right? That's the type of dog?
Great. I thought it would be so hilarious to have just like this very languid looking, like really droopy sheriff. And he was just like almost completely expressionless for the most part.
Yeah. And you kind of make him look like he's balding still.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, I thought it'd be
a dog doesn't really go bald on the top of their head like that. But I like that you made it a thing with Sheriff Patterson.
Yeah, it was basically like laying out again what happened, kind of, and then just getting a huge taste of how this is affecting the community. And that was my big aim with the whole first scene. And you really start to get the emotional effects on them. And then we have running commentary with Samantha's captions of her sort of, kind of laying out. This is basically, it's just like frying their circuit boards for all these people. Like they very much have had a naive concept of the outside world and what that really means. And this is just like a huge problem for everybody, as they're like starting like continually wrapping their heads around it and like what it implies, what the implications are as the sheriff's laying it down. And specifically that the murderer is very possibly just someone maybe even in this room right now.
Yeah, I love the fact that you do drop this, like maybe it's like throwaway, I don't know, but the first murder in over 40 years. Like,
right, yeah.
To me, that's a story. Like,
yeah.
What was the last murder? Like, I want.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I want to know now.
It's definitely a thing, and I can't remember if I mentioned this last time or not when we did the read through. But when she's having dinner in issue 1 with Nigel and Lola, and she's talking about her parents and how she got the store, like her parents aren't around anymore.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Which is a thing.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, there was a bunch of fun things that I wanted to tease to throughout the whole thing, and that was definitely one of them. But yeah, it is huge. And then at the very bottom of page 2, we get the first appearance of Cherry Girkins,
He's
who's
such
like
a bitch.
comes in. Yeah, she comes in real hot.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because like I really wanted to have it almost seems like there's everybody by and large is very like kind of seems of a same mind where it's all sort of quaint and happy-go-lucky. And but then Cherry Girkins is very much like a real person from the outside world, it feels like,
Mhm.
who is
She's a Karen.
yeah, exactly. Who is somebody you would see, at a town hall meeting. And it felt very much like the place for her to emerge and then kind of take the spotlight.
Yeah, she's very overpowering too. Because look at her husband, who's an owl, which I think is
For
funny.
sure. Yeah.
But he's just like the look at his eyes, and she's like, "Come on, Howard, this whole meeting's a waste of time." And then
It
she
is,
just storms
yeah.
off.
Yeah. And it felt very much like, yeah, the sort of highlighting the mood also. That could be with that, even though she's the one that says it, I'm sure it's throughout as well, or will develop, is just like the sort of angry fear that kind of is growing.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then also just wanted to set the tone that everybody is well aware of Cherry's antics, and that this is something the whole town has dealt with for a long time. And
Harry
then
fucking Girkins.
yeah,
I
and
love
then
it.
yeah, and then we have our little falling after the meeting where she's, Sam's gonna go on her thing. And I mean, Lola, bless her heart, like she just can't stop worrying about her friend. And that panel at the bottom of page 3 is like one of my favorite in the
Oh,
whole.
it's fantastic, dude. I
Uh,
love it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I finished it and I was just like, yeah, that turned out good. Like that
I
was
love
like,
the way you have the leaves blowing,
yeah,
like
the
in the
blowing
air. That's
leaves are
amazing.
definitely a thing, and it's very. I mean, like anytime you see a tree throughout, like because it's beneath the trees, I very much wanted to have like either blowing leaves or trees, and the leaves are falling throughout the course of this, and like autumn starting, and this very much all part of it. Like there's nothing like a literal connection to anything or heavily symbolic so much as just like a more of a loose kind of symbolism, I guess.
Mhm. And I love
Um,
that she's got to fucking figure out how to catch him because it's not big enough for two psychopaths.
yeah. This is the major problem. I mean, she saw that this would be a huge problem at the very end of issue 1, and this is just sort of reaffirming all that too. But she's a little more, feels a little more like, capable
She's
than
also
seems.
making me think about like what's wrong with me because I really like her and I don't, like I'm starting to wonder like is there a little bit of psychopath inside me that I'm like I really like
I
Samantha.
mean, there is the psychopath test that you can take,
Yeah.
and then there's also, I mean, I feel like it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. All right.
but I feel like I mean, it was definitely a conscious decision to make I mean, by the end of the first issue, it sort of sets it up like, well, who was this other murderer,
Mhm.
And so because she's sort of the only, the catch a killer, you need a killer sort of mentality, since she's the only one that seems kind of capable to do it, you're immediately on her side, just trying to see if she can do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so now we shift gears to the next day with Birdie, and he's a little traumatized
I
for
love Birdie.
obvious reasons.
I fucking love Birdie,
Me
dude.
too. I love him so much. I gave him our dog. So that's our dog Anchovy. That's with Birdie.
That's a
And
great name for a dog.
oh, thanks. So I
Anchovy.
mean,
That's awesome.
it's sort of sad. Chovy actually passed away in May.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
So well, thank you. I appreciate that.
He
But
lives on forever now.
man, it was seriously, she ended up like, so she passed in May, and then I ended up, it was right when I was drawing literally like the next page, I think.
Oh
So
man.
like it was kind of a drag, obviously, but then I was also really happy that I got her into the book because I planned on it, and I'll probably keep putting her in everything else I do. But anyway, but I love Birdie so much. I was like, well, Birdie should have Anchovy. I think that'd be great. And yeah, and Birdie's now, I mean, Birdie's got a black eye, and he's a little traumatized from what happened in issue 1, but also you find out that he also had an encounter with Cherry that you find out in a bit. But yeah, so this is like, nervous witness.
And I
Uh
love how he pulls his head
yeah,
inside.
you have to do
And
this.
then Samantha like bribes him with this fucking sour apple,
Yeah.
and you just see him stick the lollipop
Yeah.
through this. Oh, it's so good.
He loves it. He loves sour apple chews.
I love sour apple too,
Yeah.
so I think that's
Oh
why
man.
another reason I love Birdie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I got a lot of love for Birdie.
Yeah.
I felt so bad that it made him have to be sort of the pertinent person to carry through this, especially at the beginning here. I mean, and again, I feel bad for pretty much most of the stuff that happens to all the people in this book
Yeah.
because they're so cute. And they and they're just really sweet. But yeah, so here we have Samantha coming in, and she feels like it's very. I mean, she knows how to turn it on and how to be personable, right?
Hmm.
And so that's exactly, she knows what to do to get him to talk and to literally coax him out of his shell.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because like also you have to wonder like why would she be the one of all people to kind of be going around town doing it and Bert or like questioning and like looking for the killer and Birdie doesn't really question why she's there.
Right. Why does she want to know?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it's definitely part again, it's leaning heavily into the naivete of the whole town. And then
Hmm.
also how like integral she is to it, I feel like.
Yeah.
To where nobody even questions anything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Or questions her motives. And then we have this first flashback with Melody, the cat.
I
And
laughed about the lavender thing because I didn't know until recently that cats were allergic to lavender until
dude,
my cat like got in the bath and there was like lavender bath salts and he got sick and we had to rush him to
oh
like that
no.
night. Yeah, and he's fine. I was like, you're such an idiot. Like, why do you go for the stuff that's bad for you? Like he does it all the time. Like he'll go eat flowers. We have to
Oh
lock
no.
flowers away in other rooms when we
Oh
get them.
no. And to be
No.
honest, I didn't even know that. That was a total coincidence.
Oh wow. All right.
But I love that you said that. And I mean, listen, I'm not gonna pretend that I knew that going forward, but that is really sweet. And I feel like the universe just told me to do that.
Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to have something. The allergicness of it all was something that I thought would be a sort of ridiculous, but also very universal plot point
Hmm.
to have pop up. And I also love the idea of planting the notion that if the killer could very well also be just allergic, and
Hmm.
that would be a problem. So anyway, yeah. So we have this flashback with Birdie working on the float the night before, and then Melody was the only other person that was really helping him out, and she leaves because she just can't hang with all these
Hmm.
lavender. But then like at the very end, we see the sneeze, and it's like Birdie's not alone. So we're not sure if Melody really did leave or not, or what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're back with Birdie, and then we leave him with the sentiment that like the killer could literally just be anybody. Could be somebody we haven't met yet. It could be somebody we totally have already met and they know really well. And then also speaking of Samantha's knowing of people and sort of how they operate, she kind of already figures that Cherry was the one that gave him that black eye.
I love this panel where Samantha's like, could be Birdie. Sometimes you never know what people are capable of,
Yeah.
or folks are capable of. And she's just smiling at it.
Very
It's so
much like,
twisted.
yeah, I love how very much winking she is
Hmm.
to the to the camera or whatever you want to put it. It's definitely I don't know. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for puns and just obvious stuff like that. There's a pun at the end of this one as well that I'll point out. And I'm not too big to be doing that.
Yeah, I love puns too. This scene right here with the sheriff, the epitome of the naivete of the town. Because he comes to question, because I was like, well, Martin was there at your place of work. All right, well, appreciate your help. And then just on his way, he just like doesn't even question her at all. Like most cops would have like grilled her.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's well, I mean, and this is in part why she's doing what she's doing so that she can cover her ass, basically.
Mhm.
But it's also like I think there's definitely a threat that like he'll eventually stumble on like what it is that she's got going on. Which is essentially what this scene's painting, right? But it's also like, and it's something, even this is like too much. Like she's already like wishing that she didn't have to deal with any of it.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely wanted it to feel like it was just, he's just like the hangdog sort of face he's got going on and everything. Like it's just he's just like a real lackluster dude who's he does the best that he can. And then I also wanted to get into so here we are going into the hardware store. She's like completely collides with this nervous customer, and it's just like a total run. And it's just another facet of the town freaking out. And they've basically like Charlie runs through like the list of like all the stuff that they've been selling. And it's just like it's like home protection stuff or like locks, etc.
Right.
Some
Just
surveillance
showing how
stuff,
paranoid
just
everybody
everything.
is.
It's just freaking out. And then before she can even get into it, this is an awesome. Haas did a really cool move with the balloons on the next page. Uh, with or no back just at
Oh,
the top on the right with the letting the sound effects go over their dialogue and just how like interrupting it is.
oh yeah, yeah.
Um, I love that little touch. And yeah, and then Cherry shows up and sort of interrupts or torpedoes whatever anybody else wanted to do right now. So they just had to deal with her getting her latte.
God,
Um,
there's so many people like this in LA. And it just I got so mad when I was reading it. I was like all the thoughts of all the people that had been cutting me off or sneaking into lanes, like
yeah.
or taking a spot when I was trying to park. Oh
The
man.
worst is just yeah, the worst is just when anybody ever you're like stuck in traffic. It's just slow, I would say. It's like slow traffic. And then all of a sudden the car just stops and all of a sudden its blinkers are on. And then the person's getting out of the car and you're like, no.
They do it when I
Like,
drop my kid off at school,
yeah.
man. It's annoying. It's like,
Like,
what are you
no.
doing?
This is not what you don't do this.
Yeah.
I remember like, yeah, I've seen some pretty inopportune stuff. So yeah, I definitely wanted to tap into that. And just the idea that you can't like whoever like Cherry Girkins is very much like living on her time.
Yeah.
And everybody else just has to sort of deal with it. And but at the same time, this was very much a moment of Sam like sort of can't resist going to sort of like stir her up.
Yeah. So she's asked if he wants a coffee.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
then hot chocolate. So she just has to use something so she can get over there.
Yeah, exactly. And then we basically, yeah, this whole scene is essentially selling, that. And then also to have this confrontation between her and uh and Cherry, and to just like also have, show Sam manipulating her to kind of blow her lid. And it's not necessarily like that he cares for Birdie. I don't think she cares for Birdie as much as she just feels like it's almost like a how do you want to put it? Like her not letting somebody get away with bullying more than it is from sticking up for a victim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like trying to just knock down somebody who feels big and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah. That
and
makes sense.
she feels like she just can't let Cherry walk around like that.
Yeah. She's
Um,
the one with the power, kind of. She doesn't
exactly,
want somebody else
exactly,
to feel like they have any kind of power in the sense.
exactly. Even though she doesn't want to, come off like straight ahead that way. Like she's very much like a backhanded way of doing stuff. And this is one of them.
I like how just starts profusely sweating
Yeah.
as you get further along.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically, yeah. I think and I feel like for Samantha, control is like a huge thing. So the fact that she gets her to lose control is like just sort of her that's,
I
makes
know.
that
I
just
like how she brings what she says. She's just like casually talking about Birdie, but then
yeah.
she's like, "Poor little guy," like right
Yeah.
behind, like whispers it.
Yeah.
She just loses her shit. Listen, you furry bitch. I laughed so hard when I read that out loud. Oh my
Um,
god, dude. I love it. I'll sue you for harassment and defamation. Like the epitome of a Karen.
yeah.
Like that is what a Karen is.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't have to put up with this. As you
Yeah.
find out in the next page, her husband's on city council. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I love the idea of having somebody essentially assaulting someone and then saying that I won't be bullied by you.
Mhm.
Um, and there and that and there's something in it that's like very enjoyable for Samantha. which
Yeah.
is the in the bottom right on the panel and page left. She's very much
Okay.
like enjoying this moment,
Yeah.
and everybody else is sort of just freaked out about it. And I love even the little. I was a real big fan of the of panel 4 on the left side of the little swoop for her
Oh
latte.
yeah,
Even
that's really good.
um, as she's just Hurricane Cherry cruising through. And then we're at Cherry's home with her husband Howard. And then here's the pun with the station identification of WNML, and it's like NML, like animal.
I did
And
pick up on that.
and uh and it's there's a whole book called CDB. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It came out in like the 70s.
Mm-mm.
And it's like if you and all it is like it's these little cute line drawings of like a little tableau, little scene. And then the descriptor or the dialogue or whatever, the whole thing is spelled out with just single letters. Like the first one is called CDB, which is like see the B, right? But
Okay.
it's like CDB, DB, SABZB. And so the whole thing is just spelled out with single letters representing words. Or sometimes they're grouped up, like NML is animal, UMBN is human being, different stuff like that.
Oh
So
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I gotta
so
look that up.
I that was basically a nod at CDB was WNML. Anyway, and then we have our news persona who's from the city. They don't have their own news people here in the small town, so they kind of come in whenever anything newsworthy happens, which honestly isn't often. And it's part of the reason why Cherry's so bent out of shape. And I mean, to Cherry's credit too, it is annoying when they exploit stuff. But I also love the sentiment in this page with her dynamic with Howard of how he's such a pushover about being worried that she shouldn't go out because of the curfew because there is an actual killer at large, and she just says, well, you're such a pushover. It's why I married you.
I know it's fucked up. I was like,
But
what a bitchy thing to say
I
though,
know, but at the same time, this is how she cares
Yeah.
for Howard.
Yeah.
This is their love, and Howard likes it.
I know he's so
Like
content with it. The
Howard
look,
loves it.
yeah, that's
So I
crazy.
mean, is that so wrong? I don't
I
know.
guess, yeah, I guess it's all about how you look at it. Howard's cool with it, but
Yeah,
I read it. I'm like, damn, what a bitch! Like he's like looking
I
out for
know.
you, and then you're like, oh, you're a pushover. That's why I married you, so I could fucking
Yeah,
just control you. You know?
basically yes,
Yeah.
which works out great for both of them.
This whole scene
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I was really excited to do this, and I just did my best to try and make it. I wasn't sure. I was really honestly worried about how it was going to turn out. I wasn't sure if the vibe was going to come through strong enough. And specifically like the dynamics with the scene of having this, open, empty sort of night stroll, and then to kind of play the idea of somebody watching her, and which is, I mean, that's you know, I was really happy with how the little splash page turned out, getting into it, and then the like having the anytime you set foreground stuff, it always works really well to have start painting the idea that you could be being watched right now.
Hmm.
And then I just loved the idea of the alley. You have to play down the alleyway that she's going to run down, just to play geographically, but then also just again double down on the whole spooky vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it played out. You executed it pretty flawlessly. I mean, you
Thanks,
get
man.
that feeling, that like eerie feeling of like something's about to fucking go down.
And
You just
also the
keep building the
leaves
tension.
and the
Yeah,
leaves coming through too, on
yeah,
the bottom to help kind of propel it. It felt
yeah.
like to this little, you know, moment, which isn't necessarily like a scare, but it kind of is.
Hmm.
For the car driving by, and then you have the killer basically revealed in foreground. And I love the idea that she is like, oh yeah, yeah. I'm glad to see somebody else wasn't scared to go out too or whatever. But it's literally like the only person why you're on curfew, and then she's sort of
It's
awarded
her
this
fucking fingers cut off.
slash for her fingers, yeah, getting cut off, which felt like a really horrible thing to happen. And but it also would take a while to bleed to death. So I felt like it would be like just a horrible thing to live with,
Hmm.
for for a while, the sort of disfigurement of it all. And then also, I love the cramming of the oh my gods
That's what I was just gonna
that
say to you.
Haas put into the word balloon. I love it.
Yeah, I don't even think I've seen that.
I
I
don't
could
know
be,
if I had either, to be
yeah,
honest.
I could
I
be
mean,
wrong.
yeah, I kind of feel like it probably does exist somewhere, but I just love, like, there was, sorry, can we go back to the cafe scene real quick? So I totally forgot to point this out, but I love in the page right, panel one, that little angry word balloon that
Oh,
Haas
this,
threw in,
yeah.
where it just scribbles. And it's just like, and that's not, he did that. That was just an idea he had and he put in. And it works so well for just, just to have something there because it's great. Even if it's not like a literal word or whatever, the vocalization of the sort of frustration that she's having is just wonderful. And it works super well to lead into her little outburst.
Yeah.
But anyway,
No, I
anyway.
definitely think so.
So when it got into, yeah, he did a lot of really fun stuff with this issue. But yeah, I love the crammed oh my gods. And then I also love I wasn't sure how to how to put out the the dialogue bubbles in the last panel for this page on page right, because I wanted it to basically just read as somebody help me, but then also like have her just to trace her progression up the fire escape would be really fun to do.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how we ended up on that. But I like it. I thought it turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And then yeah, and crashes through this little side window, the locked door. And again, that little like grunt that Haas throws in with that awesome word balloon. That's so cool. And then I'm a sucker for these little pit pat things. I threw those in
Hmm.
and the stomps and everything like that. But I love the idea of these dainty little pit pats. And it's also echoing like when she was walking in front of the school as well. But yeah. I love having the juxtaposition of the pit pat, and then the stomp, 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 and then
Well,
it's
I
just
think
cool.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I saw this and I'm like, there's two people going after her.
Oh yeah, maybe there is.
That's what I took from it. And then you just the thud of her hitting the ground and then her begging, whereas she's been this like kind of coming from a position of strength and bullying, and then to
Yeah.
finally be like, fuck, I needed help.
Which
And no,
yeah, and again, I feel horrible about what happens to her. Because this and I wanted it to be very much like this not cool thing that happened, it isn't. I mean, it's horrible. But the having her just completely, at the mercy of this horrible thing happening, it felt like it needed to be as pitiful as I could do it. I think it works really well. I really liked, I mean, I guess, I mean, I hope it works out, but I really like the idea of having the close up on the last part of that groveling and then to have sort of a death blow dealt and then to just cut to like the next day
mm-hmm,
of, blood drained and like flies.
yeah.
And it felt like a interesting sort of way to just get into daytime the next day.
It's a great transition into the next day because not only do you get that, but the color of her face too.
Yeah,
Like you could
yeah.
tell she's been laying there for a while. The blue
Yeah.
over her eyes is a great transition. And
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
think it's fucked up that it's in an elementary school too.
Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah. I
where it's
thought that
all
would be
like,
really messed up.
yeah.
I thought that the crossing guard from issue one should be the one to find her.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that would be really messed up. And the sort of kind of ridiculous head of the class scrawled in blood. And if you look on the side, and I also have like all the like like elementary school stuff you'd find on the here's the superstars for the week, and it's like Kevin and like Julie and
Yeah.
whatever. And then we get uh our newscast or our news anchor again on location, breaking news. And Birdie's, I mean, bless his heart, he even though it's happened to Cherry, he still feels horrible about everything. But you also wonder if he might know something about it. And then we're left with sort of the growing sentiment, and now grief-stricken Howard uh and the rest of the town getting kind of fed up with what's happening.
It just leaves you wanting more. That's to me, that's a perfect comic where like when you end it, you're like almost angry because you
Sure.
want the next part. I hate to say it. I mean, like, I wasn't mad at the book, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, where you're just
Yeah.
oh my God, I wish I could just read the next issue already. But I mean, to follow up such a great debut issue and then to go this route, like, because I wouldn't even have predicted like what's going to be the next steps in the book. Like, what you can't predict anything. And I think
Well,
that
it's
that's what's a
totally,
great
and it's
comic.
definitely, and it's kind of funny because like this is definitely like the most like whodunit Columbo kind of, you know,
Mhm.
part of it. But it is a, I mean, it takes an even another turn with issue 3, and it takes
Yeah.
another turn with issue 4. So like it definitely doesn't, it's very much doing its own thing overall. But it just felt kind of fun to sort of lean into the, you know, these different sort of facets of it. So like when you get into issue 3, like I'm very curious to see what people think of issue 3.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that one with you
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. But I'm really pleased with how 2 turned out. And I'm excited. Yeah.
I think, yeah, another great issue. Like, I hate to say this, I think it's cliche when you tell people don't sleep on something, like don't sleep on this book, don't sleep on the show, whatever. But don't sleep on this book. Like, go get it. It's easy to catch up because we got the
Yeah.
second print drop. It dropped the same day as this, so it's definitely a series you don't want to regret not picking up, because if you wait too long, then you gotta wait for the train, and that's just gonna take too long to come out. So go pick up the first book, go pick up this one. Make sure you check out the video where we go through issue 1. Patrick and I will be going through the entire series, so please continue to check all that with us. And Patrick, again, thank you so much for doing this. I love
Oh, dude, thank you. I
going through this.
appreciate it, man. Yeah, so do I.